Commander Elena Reyes watched the alien ship materialize in Earth's orbit through the massive viewscreen of the International Space Defense Command Center. The vessel dwarfed the ISS by orders of magnitude, its obsidian hull absorbing rather than reflecting light, creating an artificial eclipse against the stars. "All attempts at communication have failed, Commander," Lieutenant Park said, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "They're not responding on any frequency." Elena's jaw tightened. After 20 years in the Space Force, she thought she'd seen everything. But this? This was first contact, and it was going sideways fast. "Keep trying," she ordered. "And patch me through to the Security Council." Before Park could comply, the ISDC's systems flickered. The lights dimmed momentarily before emergency protocols kicked in. Every screen in the command center suddenly displayed the same image, a tall, slender being with pale translucent skin that revealed a complex network of bioluminescent veins beneath. Its eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, were entirely black, reflecting nothing. "Humans," the alien spoke, its voice a discordant symphony of tones that made Elena's teeth ache. "We are the Voidborn. Your world has been selected for assimilation into the eternal expanse. Resistance is inadvisable." The Security Council representatives appeared on a secondary screen, their faces ashen. "This is Secretary General Okafor of the United Nations," a dignified woman spoke firmly. "We welcome peaceful contact with your people and peace is inefficient," the alien interrupted. "Your species will serve or be removed. You have 27 hours to surrender your governing authorities. After this grace period, we will commence cleansing operations." The transmission cut abruptly. Elena looked around the command center. Fear was palpable, but there was something else, determination. "Get me everything we have on that ship," she ordered. "Composition, energy signatures, potential weaknesses. And I want all military assets worldwide on high alert." "Commander," Park hesitated. "Their technology, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. The initial scans show their hull is comprised of materials that don't match any known element." Elena stepped closer to the view screen, studying the massive ship that hung like a silent predator above Earth. "Maybe so," she said quietly. "But they've made a critical error." "What's that, Commander?" Elena's eyes narrowed. "They gave us 27 hours. Dr. Mohinder Rao had been working without sleep for 18 hours straight when Commander Reyes entered his laboratory at CERN. The physicist barely noticed her arrival, his attention fixed on the quantum simulation running before him. "Dr. Rao," Elena said, startling the scientist. "I need answers." Mohinder ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Commander Reyes. I've been analyzing the data from the Voidborn ship. Their technology operates on principles we've only theorized about. They're manipulating quantum fields on a macroscopic scale. In English, Doctor. They're bending reality, Commander. Creating localized bubbles where the laws of physics are flexible." Elena frowned. "That doesn't sound like something we can fight." "Perhaps not directly," Mohinder acknowledged. "But there's something interesting in the data. Their technologies are incredibly advanced, but they follow predictable patterns. Almost algorithmic. Meaning? They might be more machine than biological. Their responses, their technology, everything appears to follow rigid protocols. They're efficient but..." He hesitated. "Not adaptable," Elena finished. "Precisely. They've evolved or been designed for optimization rather than innovation." Mohinder pointed to his simulation. "Their ship generates a quantum field that our weapons can't penetrate, but it pulsates at regular intervals. If we could disrupt that rhythm," Elena leaned forward. "Go on. We need something unexpected. Something they wouldn't consider a threat." Mohinder's eyes lit up with the fevered intensity of inspiration. "Commander, how quickly can you get me access to the old Russian EMP satellites from the Cold War?" Captain Marcus Chen of the USS Defiant watched the alien smaller craft descend toward major cities worldwide. The 27-hour deadline had passed, and the Voidborn had begun their cleansing operations. "Conventional weapons have no effect, Captain," his weapons officer reported as footage from Shanghai showed missiles dissipating harmlessly against the alien craft's shields. Marcus had seen enough. Prepare to execute Operation Thunderclap. Around the world, humanity's last military resources moved into position. It wasn't a conventional attack, the aliens would expect that. Instead, on Elena Reyes' orders, they were implementing Dr. Rao's desperate gambit. The Voidborn ship is deploying more craft, his tactical officer announced. Energy readings are spiking. Marcus nodded grimly. Right on schedule. They're predictable, at least. He opened a channel to ISDC. Commander Reyes, we're ready on your mark. In the ISDC command center, Elena stood with Dr. Rao, watching as the Voidborn methodically began their assault. Cities around the globe reported the same pattern, alien craft positioning themselves in formation before deploying smaller drones that targeted infrastructure and military installations. They're following tactical protocols, Elena observed. Just as you predicted. Mohinder nodded, his expression grim. They're not adapting to each location's unique defenses. They're applying the same solution universally. Elena opened a global command channel. All units, commence Operation Thunderclap. I repeat, commence Operation Thunderclap. Across the planet, military units initiated what appeared to be a coordinated but conventional counterattack. Fighter jets launched, ground forces mobilized, and naval vessels moved into position, all seemingly futile against the alien superior technology, but the real operation was happening elsewhere. In orbit, dormant satellites, relics from a Cold War long past, hummed to life. On the ground, massive EMP generators that had been hastily modified according to Dr. Rao's specifications powered up. None of these were targeting the alien crafts directly, instead, they targeted Earth's own electromagnetic field. Capacitors charged, Marcus reported from the Defiant. Ready on your command. Elena took a deep breath. This could fail spectacularly. It could even make things worse. But humanity was out of options. Execute, she ordered. Across the globe, the modified EMP devices fired simultaneously, but instead of aiming outward toward the alien craft, they directed their energy into Earth's magnetosphere. Dr. Rao's calculations had predicted that the resulting disruption would create a cascading resonance effect, one that would interfere with the quantum pulsations of the Voidborn shields. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the sky turned red. Earth's magnetosphere, energized by the coordinated electromagnetic pulse, began to glow like an angry wound across the heavens. The Voidborn ships faltered, their steady descent interrupted as their quantum fields encountered the chaotic electromagnetic storm humanity had unleashed. It's working! Mohinder exclaimed, watching as alien craft struggled to maintain altitude. Their systems can't compensate for the magnetic field fluctuations. Elena allowed herself a moment of hope. All defense forces, engage the Voidborn craft. Target any showing shield instability. Around the world, humanity launched its counterattack. What had seemed like certain defeat minutes ago now turned into a desperate but determined fight for survival. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest. 3 months later, Elena stood in the ruins of what had once been downtown Singapore. Operation Thunderclap had saved humanity from immediate annihilation, but the war was far from over. The Voidborn had adapted not quickly, but methodically adjusting their quantum shields to compensate for Earth's weaponized magnetosphere. Status report, she demanded as her team set up a makeshift command post in the shell of a former financial tower. Major Adebayo, once a Nigerian Special Forces commander and now her chief tactical officer, pulled up a holographic map. The Voidborn have established primary bases in 12 locations worldwide. They're mining rare earth elements at an alarming rate. For what purpose? Dr. Rao believes they're constructing something, Adebayo replied. Possibly a planetary conversion device. According to recovered data, they transform planets to match their preferred environmental conditions. Elena studied the map. The Voidborn had abandoned their initial strategy of rapid conquest for a more methodical approach. They were no longer trying to eliminate humanity, they were simply ignoring them, focusing instead on their mysterious construction projects. And our forces? The Asian Pacific Coalition is holding the line in Malaysia. The Eurasian Defense Front repelled an alien mining operation in the Urals last week. The America's United Command has gone guerrilla, disrupting Voidborn supply chains. Elena nodded. Humanity had reorganized quickly after the initial attack, national boundaries becoming irrelevant in the face of extinction. What remained of Earth's military forces had consolidated into regional commands, each adapting to fight an enemy with vastly superior technology. And Project Prometheus? Adebayo's expression turned grave. Dr. Rao says they're close. Butan explosion rocked the building, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Elena steadied herself against a support column. Voidborn patrol, a soldier reported, rushing into the command center. 4 hunter drones and a sentinel. The ground forces had learned to classify the various Voidborn units. Hunter drones were basketball-sized spheres that could detect human life signs through almost any barrier. Sentinels were 8-foot-tall bipedal machines armed with disintegration beams. Evacuation protocol, Elena ordered. Get the command staff to the secondary location. First squad, diversionary tactics. As her team rapidly packed up crucial equipment, Elena checked her rifle, a conventional weapon modified with technology reverse-engineered from downed Voidborn craft. The modifications were the work of Dr. Rao and a global network of scientists who had been studying the aliens' technology. Major Adebayo approached, his own weapon ready. "Commander, you should go with the command staff." Elena chambered around. "Not happening, Major." Outside, the distinctive hum of hunter drones grew closer. Elena's squad took defensive positions, their faces grim but determined. 3 months of brutal warfare had hardened them all. "Remember," Elena said, "sentinels always follow the same search pattern. Use it against them." The first hunter drone appeared around a corner, its smooth metallic surface gleaming despite the dust-filled air. Elena aimed carefully and fired. The modified round struck the drone and, instead of bouncing off harmlessly, adhered to its surface. A second later, the drone's systems failed, and it clattered to the ground. "Adhesive EMP rounds," Elena explained to a newer squad member. Dr. Rao's latest gift. The squad engaged the remaining drones using the same tactics. The Sentinel presented a greater challenge, but true to form, it followed a predictable search pattern. Elena's team used this to their advantage, laying a trap that culminated in multiple EMP charges detonating simultaneously, overloading the Sentinel systems. As they made their way to the secondary command post through Singapore's ruined underground transit system, Elena contacted Dr. Rao. "We need Prometheus operational," she said without preamble. "The Voidborn are building something big, and I don't think we want to see it completed." Mohinder's holographic image flickered. "We've had a breakthrough, Commander. The Voidborn quantum communication system, we've finally cracked it. We can't read their transmissions yet, but we can disrupt them." "How does that help us?" "Their entire military operates on a hierarchical network. Orders flow from their mothership to field commanders through quantum-entangled particles. If we can sever those connections, their forces would be isolated," Elena finished. "Unable to coordinate." "Precisely. But there's a catch. We need to plant quantum disruptors on each of their 12 major bases simultaneously. If they detect our plan too soon, they'll adapt." Elena considered this. A synchronized global strike on 12 heavily defended Voidborn strongholds. "I never said it would be easy, Commander." "Nothing has been since they arrived, Doctor." Elena's expression hardened with resolve. "Send the plans for the disruptors. I'll coordinate with the regional commands." As she signed off, Major Adebayo approached. "Commander, there's something you should see." He led her to a makeshift medical bay where dozens of civilians were receiving treatment. Among them was a young girl, no more than 12, with half her body covered in an iridescent, scale-like material. "What am I looking at, Major?" "We found her near a Voidborn processing facility," Adebayo explained quietly. "Dr. Chen believes they're experimenting on humans, trying to modify them." Elena knelt beside the girl, who stared back with one normal brown eye and one that had transformed into a black, alien orb. Despite this, there was still very human defiance in her gaze. "What's your name?" Elena asked gently. May, the girl replied, her voice strong despite her condition. Are you in pain, May? The girl shook her head. Not anymore. They wanted to make me like them. But I'm still me in here. She tapped her chest. They don't understand that part. Elena felt a surge of both rage and inspiration. No, she agreed. They don't understand humanity at all. And that's going to be their downfall. Standing, she turned to Adebayo. Get me a secure channel to all regional commands. Project Prometheus just got a new component. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. Dr. Rao's quantum disruptors were manufactured in hidden facilities across the globe, while Special Forces teams prepared for what might be humanity's last coordinated offensive. In the Sydney underground base, one of the few major cities not yet fully occupied by the Voidborn, Elena briefed the assembled commanders via secure holographic link. Operation Prometheus has 3 phases, she explained. Phase 1, simultaneous infiltration of all 12 Voidborn bases to plant the quantum disruptors. Phase 2, activation of the disruptors, severing the Voidborn command structure. Phase 3, the Lazarus Protocol. There was uneasy shifting among the officers at the mention of the third phase. Commander, General Williams of the Americas United Command spoke up, the Lazarus Protocol hasn't been field tested. We don't know if humans can survive the process. We have a volunteer, Elena replied, nodding to where May sat quietly at the edge of the briefing room. And Dr. Rao has refined the procedure based on her unique situation. The Lazarus Protocol was perhaps the most desperate aspect of their plan, using the Voidborn's own technology against them. Dr. Rao had discovered that the aliens' biological modifications could be reverse-engineered, temporarily granting humans the ability to interface with Voidborn systems. Once the disruptors are active, we'll have a brief window, Elena continued. During that time, our Lazarus operative will board the mothership and upload a virus directly into their central network. A human virus into an alien system, someone questioned skeptically. Not exactly, Dr. Rao chimed in from his laboratory. It's more elegant than that. What we're uploading isn't designed to destroy their systems, but to introduce chaos into their perfectly ordered processes. To make their technology behave well, humanly. Elena nodded. Unpredictable. Creative. Adaptive. Everything the Voidborn are not. The briefing continued late into the night, addressing contingencies and coordinating the complex global operation. When it finally concluded, Elena found May waiting for her. They don't think I can do it, the girl said matter-of-factly. Elena sat beside her. What do you think? May touched the alien scales that now covered nearly 60% of her body. The Voidborn made a mistake when they tried to change me. They gave me access to parts of themselves they didn't intend to. What do you mean? I can hear them sometimes, May whispered. Not words exactly, but patterns. They think differently. Everything is math and efficiency to them. There's no joy or fear or love. She looked up at Elena with her mismatched eyes. They're so alone, even when they're together. I don't think they could understand what makes us fight so hard. Elena felt a chill at the girl's insight. And what does make us fight, May? The girl smiled, a strikingly human expression on her partially transformed face. Each other, of course. The infiltration teams deployed worldwide under cover of darkness. Elena led the Singapore team personally, unwilling to ask others to take risks she wouldn't face herself. Their target was the massive Voidborn structure that now dominated the former Marina Bay, a twisting spire of alien architecture that pulsed with eerie blue light. Voidborn patrols follow precise intervals, Elena reminded her team as they navigated the flooded underground passages. 68 seconds between hunter-drone sweeps, 4 minutes between sentinel rotations. They moved with practiced efficiency, timing their advances between patrols. 3 months of fighting the methodical aliens had taught humanity to exploit their rigid adherence to patterns. Approaching the primary intake valve, Lieutenant Rivera reported, consulting a holographic map projected from her wrist device. This should give us access to the coolant system. Elena nodded. Remember, minimal weapons discharge. The quantum disruptor must remain undetected until all teams are in position. The intake valve, a massive structure designed to draw in seawater to cool the Voidborn's mysterious machinery, provided a vulnerable entry point. While the aliens had perfect defenses against expected threats, they often overlooked what they considered insignificant, like the small marine creatures that had begun building nests in their external systems, creating gaps in their otherwise impenetrable security. Elena's team slipped through one such gap, entering the alien structure's labyrinthine interior. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, while the air carried a sterile, ozone-like quality that made their eyes water. "Central cooling junction in 100 meters, Rivera whispered. "That's our target for the disruptor." As they advanced deeper into the structure, Elena's comm unit vibrated a status update from the other teams. 8 had successfully infiltrated their targets. 2 were facing heavy resistance. 1 had gone silent. They reached the cooling junction, a vast chamber where various conduits converged around a pulsating crystalline core. The quantum disruptor, a deceptively small device housing technology that had taken Earth's best minds months to develop, needed to be placed within 5 meters of this core. "Cover me," Elena ordered, taking the disruptor from her pack. She approached the core carefully, measuring the distance with a specialized scanner. Just as she prepared to plant the device, a deep thrumming sound reverberated through the chamber. "Sentinel," Rivera hissed. "Unscheduled patrol." Elena froze. This was new. The Voidborn never deviated from their patterns. Unless they're adapting, she realized with a chill. "Everyone, defensive positions. I need 30 seconds. As her team engaged the Sentinel, drawing its attention away from her, Elena rushed toward the core. The disruptor had to be perfectly positioned to synchronize with the others worldwide. The sounds of combat echoed through the chamber, the distinctive whine of the Sentinel's disintegration beam and the muffled reports of her team's modified weapons. Elena blocked it out, focusing entirely on her task. She reached the optimal position and activated the disruptor's adhesion system, securing it to a conduit near the core. "Commander!" Rivera shouted in warning. Elena turned to see a hunter drone she hadn't noticed bearing down on her. There was no time to draw her weapon. Instead, she dropped flat as the drone shot past, missing her by centimeters. Before it could circle back, one of her team took it down with a precise shot. "Disruptor planted," Elena announced, rejoining her team as they retreated from the chamber. "Status of other teams?" Rivera checked her comm. 11 disruptors successfully planted. 1 team still dark. Elena consulted her own device. The missing team was in Rio de Janeiro. Without all 12 disruptors, Operation Prometheus would fail. "Patch me through to Rio backup team," she ordered. "Commander," a strained voice responded. "Primary team is down. We're at the perimeter but heavily outnumbered." Elena made a rapid decision. "Proceed with the mission. We'll delay activation until you confirm placement." The next 40 minutes were agonizing. Elena's team made their way to the extraction point, evading increasingly frequent patrols. The Voidborn were definitely changing their patterns, adapting in a way they hadn't shown before. "Rio team, status?" Elena demanded once they reached relative safety in an abandoned subway station. "Disruptor planted," came the exhausted reply. 3 survivors. "Withdrawing now." Elena allowed herself a moment of relief before opening a channel to Dr. Rao. "All disruptors in position. Awaiting your command for activation." At the Sydney base, Dr. Rao stood before a global holographic display showing all 12 Voidborn structures. May was beside him, her transformation now even more pronounced, nearly 70% of her body covered in the alien material, both eyes now black orbs. "The moment we activate the disruptors, the Voidborn will detect our interference," Rao reminded everyone. "We'll have approximately 12 minutes before they isolate and neutralize the devices." "That's our window for Phase 3, Elena confirmed. "Is our Lazarus operative ready?" All eyes turned to May, who stood unnaturally still, her expression serene despite the enormity of what she was about to attempt. "I'm ready," she said simply. "Doctor." Rao placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Remember, once you're inside their network, it will feel overwhelming. Focus on your humanity, your memories, your emotions. That's your anchor. May nodded, then looked at Elena through the holographic link. Commander Reyes? If I don't come back, thank you for treating me like a person, not an experiment. Elena felt her throat tighten. You're going to make it back, May. That's an order. A ghost of a smile touched the girl's lips. Yes, Commander. Dr. Rao faced the waiting teams around the world. Initiating quantum disruptors in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the activation command. Across the globe, the 12 devices simultaneously released carefully calibrated pulses that resonated with the Voidborn's quantum communication network. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien structures faltered, their pulsing lights flickering erratically. In orbit, the massive mothership visibly shuddered. Disruptors functioning at optimal capacity, Rao reported. Voidborn communications experiencing 93% degradation. Elena watched the Sydney feed as May was guided to a modified interface station. The girl lay back in a chair that resembled a medical recliner, but bristling with technology salvaged from Voidborn craft. Neural interfaces, thin filaments of alien tech extended toward her transformed skin. Beginning Lazarus Protocol, Rao announced. The filaments connected with May's alien tissue, which responded by extending tendrils of its own to complete the circuit. May gasped, her back arching as her consciousness was pulled into the Voidborn network. Vital signs elevated but stable, a medical officer reported. Neural activity off the charts. On screens worldwide, humanity watched as May's mind or some digital representation of it penetrated the Voidborn systems. She wasn't physically aboard the mothership, but through the alien tissue integrated with her body, she could access their network as if she were. I see it, May's voice came through the speakers, sounding distant and echoing. Their entire network, it's beautiful in a cold way. Like crystal mathematics. Focus on the central command node, Rao guided her. Look for patterns resembling neural architecture. In Singapore, Elena and her team huddled around their portable display, watching May's progress. Suddenly, alarms blared from their sensors. Voidborn forces mobilizing worldwide, Rivera reported. They're converging on all disruptor locations. Defensive teams, engage, Elena ordered. Buy us every second you can. Around the world, human forces that had been standing ready launched coordinated attacks on Voidborn units. Not to defeat them, that was still beyond human capability, but to delay them, to create chaos in their precisely ordered operations. In Sydney, May navigated deeper into the alien network. I found it, she announced. The central node. It's aware. I think it detects me. Upload the virus now, Rao urged. Disruptors at 80% effectiveness and declining, a technician warned. 9 minutes remaining. May's transformed body trembled as she initiated the upload. Not a conventional computer virus, but a complex algorithm designed to introduce human unpredictability into the Voidborn's perfectly ordered systems. It's fighting back, she gasped. Trying to isolate the intrusion. Stay focused, Elena encouraged her. Remember who you are, May. Remember what you're fighting for. In orbit, the massive Voidborn mothership's lights flickered more violently. Smaller craft began to move erratically, some colliding with each other as their coordination broke down. Virus at 40% integration, Rao reported. Disruptors at 65% effectiveness. 7 minutes remaining. The battle intensified on the ground. In Singapore, Elena's team engaged Voidborn forces attempting to reach the disruptor. The aliens' coordination was visibly degraded, their normally synchronized movements now disjointed and confused. They're adapting again, Elena realized as she observed a sentinel changing its tactics mid-combat. Faster than before. In Sydney, May suddenly screamed a sound of both pain and triumph. It's trying to assimilate me completely, she gasped. But I can use that, create a feedback loop. May, that's too dangerous, Rao protested. Your consciousness could be permanently absorbed. It's the only way, she insisted. I can feel it. They've never encountered anything like human emotion before. It's overwhelming their systems. On screens worldwide, the virus integration suddenly jumped to 70%, then 85%. The Voidborn ships in orbit began moving in chaotic patterns, some powering down entirely. Disruptors at 40% effectiveness, the technician announced. 4 minutes remaining. May's body convulsed in the chair, black fluid leaking from her eyes. I'm opening myself completely to the network, she whispered. Giving them everything, all my memories, my feelings, my pain, my hope. May, you could lose yourself, Rao warned. It's okay, she replied, her voice eerily calm despite her physical distress. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to win the game. In orbit, the mothership's lights began to pulse in an entirely new pattern, irregular, almost organic. Smaller ships tumbled out of formation, their coordinated assault completely broken. Virus integration at 98%, Rao announced, his voice filled with wonder. The Voidborn network, it's reorganizing itself. Elena watched in astonishment as the alien forces worldwide suddenly ceased their advance. Sentinels stood motionless, while hunter drones dropped from the sky like dead insects. What's happening? She demanded. The virus isn't just disrupting their systems, Rao explained, his eyes fixed on rapidly changing data streams. It's transforming them. May's consciousness, her humanity, is rewriting their fundamental operational parameters. In the command chair, May's body relaxed suddenly, the black fluid stopping. They understand now, she said, her voice stronger. They've lived so long without emotion, without connection. Their efficiency made them powerful but incomplete. On the global monitors, the mothership's erratic pulsing gradually stabilized into a new pattern, and not the rigid, perfect rhythm of before, but something more fluid, more alive. Voidborn forces are standing down worldwide, reports flooded in from around the globe. They're withdrawing. Elena could hardly believe what she was seeing. After months of relentless warfare, the aliens were retreating to their ships, which in turn were ascending to rejoin the mothership in orbit. May, what did you do? Rao asked softly. I showed them what they were missing, she replied. What they could never calculate or quantify. They've been assimilating worlds for millennia, but they've never truly connected with any of them. Her mismatched eyes opened, looking at something beyond the room. They're leaving now. To reconsider. To feel. As Rao disconnected her from the interface, the technicians confirmed what they were all seeing. The Voidborn mothership and its fleet were departing Earth's orbit, moving toward the outer solar system at increasing speed. Elena opened a global channel. All commands, maintain alert status. This could be a strategic withdrawal. But as hours passed with no sign of the aliens returning, the truth slowly dawned on humanity. They had not won through superior firepower or technology, but through something uniquely human: the complex, messy, beautiful emotional intelligence that the hyperrational Voidborn could not comprehend. In the aftermath, as cities worldwide began the long process of rebuilding, Elena visited May in the Sydney medical facility. The girl's transformation had stopped progressing, leaving her permanently caught between human and alien. The scientists say your condition is stable, Elena told her. Dr. Rao thinks you might even be able to reverse some of the changes eventually. May nodded, looking out the window at the sunset painting the sky in brilliant colors. I can still feel them, you know. Distantly. Like a memory of a dream. Are they coming back? Elena asked the question everyone wanted answered. Not in the way you think, May replied. They're processing what they experienced, what I showed them. Emotions are difficult for them. Overwhelming. But fascinating. She turned to Elena, a very human smile on her partially alien face. They'll return someday, but not as conquerors. As what, then? May considered this for a moment. As students, perhaps. Or maybe even friends. Elena wasn't entirely convinced, but she had learned to trust May's unique insight. Either way, we'll be ready. Yes, May agreed. That's what humans do best, isn't it? Adapt. Overcome. Connect. She looked again at the sunset, her expression peaceful. They laughed at our primitive weapons, but they never understood that our greatest strength isn't what we build, it's who we are. As Elena left the medical facility, she paused to watch the sunset May had been admiring. The sky was turning a deep red, but unlike before, this wasn't a harbinger of invasion and death. This time, it was simply the beautiful end of one day and the promise of another. Humanity had survived, not because they matched the Voidborn's technology, but because they possessed something the aliens could not compute: the irrational, illogical, and ultimately unbeatable power of the human spirit. And that, Elena thought as she watched the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky, was worth fighting for.